What is up, party people? We are back with our Spanish study guide for lesson 7. So let's start with what's going to be on the quiz. So first off is our vocabulary from page 260, el mate, which is the drink, from page 235, reflexive verbs, indefinite and negative words, preterite for ser and ir, verbs like gustar, and then Peru for our culture section. We're going to start with our vocab, and this is of our vocab from page 60. It's actually a lot less than what we normally have, so there's going to be a mix of verbs and actions. So let's go ahead and get started. We have acordarse, which is to remember, acostarse, which is to go to bed, and anything with se is going to be a reflexive verb. Afeitarse is to shave, bañarse is to take a bath, cepillarse el pelo is to brush one's hair, cepillarse los dientes is to brush one's teeth, despertarse is to wake up, dormirse is to fall asleep, ducharse is to take a shower, enojarse con is to get angry with, irse is to leave, lavarse la cara is to wash one's face, lavarse las manos is to wash one's hands, levantarse is to get up, llamarse is to be called, maquillarse is to put on makeup, peinarse is to comb one's hair, ponarse is to put on, ponarse plus an adjective is to become, preocuparse is to worry about, probarse is to try on, quedarse is to stay, quitarse is to take off, secarse is to dry oneself, sentarse is to sit down, and sentirse is to feel, and then vestirse is to get dressed. Now we have palabras de secuencia, so this is going to be our sequence. Antes de is before, después de is afterwards, después is afterwards, and después de is after. Durante is during, entonces is then, luego is also then, but there's different contextual meanings behind those. Más tarde is later, and por último is finally. And now we have our indefinites and negatives. Algo is something, alguien is someone, alguno, alguna, algunos, algunas, or algún is some or any. Nada means nothing, nadie is nobody, ni ni is neither or nor. Ninguno, ninguna, ningún is none or not any. Nunca or jamás is never. O is either or. Siempre, always. También, also, and tampoco, neither. Now these are our verbs with similarities to gustar. So we have aburrir, which is to bore. Encantar is to love. Faltar is to lack / need. Fascinar is to fascinate, importar is to matter, interesar is to interest, molestar is to bother, and quedar is to fit / be left. And then we have additional words. So we have el despertador is our alarm clock, our las pantuflas are our slippers, la rutina diaria is our daily routine, por la mañana in the morning, por la tarde afternoon, and por la noche at night. Now for our bathroom vocab, el baño or cuarto de baño is our bathroom, el shampoo is shampoo, la crema de afeitar is shaving cream because afeitarse is to shave, la ducha is shower, el espejo is our mirror, el inodoro is toilet, el jabón is soap, el lavabo is sink, el maquillaje is makeup for maquillarse, which is to put on makeup, la pasta de dientes is toothpaste, and la toalla, we'll just go with that, is towel. Now for some of our culture. So this is el mate. So this is the drink that we talked about. So it's a traditional drink which is similar to tea, and it's mostly drank in Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, and it's typically served hot, and you drink it with a bombilla, which is a metal straw, and the container is also called mate. So the container that the drink mate is in is called mate. So mate in mate with a bombilla. The flavor is bitter, but sometimes you can add sugar and it makes it taste a little bit better. In Argentina, people will sit in circles and pass it from hand to hand. And then in Uruguay, people will normally carry it in a thermos, like under their arm, or they'll drink it while they're walking. So on the quiz, if you see any words like bombilla, amargo, termo, or circulo, it's going to be talking about mate, the drink. Now for our reflexive verbs. So our reflexive verbs are verbs where the subject is doing the action to themselves. So our reflexive pronouns are me, te, se, nos, os, se. So yo, me, tú, te, él, ella, usted, se, nosotros, nos, vosotros, os, or ellos, ellas, ustedes, se. So an example would be Joaquin se ducha por la mañana. So he is taking a shower in the morning, but he's showering himself. So he's doing it to himself. So that's a reflexive verb. So like if I am washing my hands, I'm doing that action to myself. So I would use a reflexive verb. So we're going to look at where can you place the reflexive pronoun. So it can go, one, before our conjugated verb, so me levanto. It can go attached to the infinitive, so it can be voy a levantar me, so just attach it, stick it right on the end. But it can also be added to ando or yendo, but you have to add an accent over the A or the E on ando or endo. So it could be banándose or durmiéndose. You just stick it right on there, but it has ando or endo with it. Some important rules to remember is that reflexive pronouns need to match the subject. So if you're using first person, as in yo, you would need to connect it with me. Same for all of our others. Body parts, like clothing articles, are not possessives. Reflexives and non-reflexive have different meanings. So an example would be Lola lava los platos. It's not reflexive, whereas Lola se lava la cara is reflexive because Lola is washing her face. Now for our indefinites and negative words. So our indefinite words are algo, alguien, or alguno. O, o, siempre, and también. Whereas our negatives are nada, nadie, ninguno, ni, nunca, and tampoco. So our negative words always go before the verb. Or, sorry, they can go before the verb, and this is how we typically see them. So it would just be nadie se levanta. The other way that we can see them is where we have no, the verb, and then our negative word. But you have to remember that you need a double negative. So it would be no se levanta nadie. So you have to have that double negative in front of the verb. You can't just attach the negative to the end and just have se levanta nadie. That's not how it works. So that's why we don't typically see it that way. But if you want to write it that way, just remember you have to add the no in front. Some more important rules are going to be that alguno turns to algún before a masculine singular noun, and ninguno turns into ningún before the masculine singular noun as well. And then you always have to add a personal a used with people. Moving on to our preterite of ser and ir. So it's the exact same for ser and ir. The conjugation is the exact same, so you don't have to worry about that. What you do have to worry about is if a question is asked for like context for ser and ir, because context is going to tell us which one we're talking about. Are we going somewhere or are we describing something? So it's yo fui, tú fuiste, él, ella, usted fui, nosotros, nosotras fuimos, vos, vosotros fuisteis, and ellos, ellas fueron. And some examples would be fui a Lima, so going to Lima, or fui interesante, you're using ser, you're describing something. And if you noticed before, we have no accents for any of them. Moving on to gustar. So remember, gustar is to like something, but this verb also has indirect object pronouns that we have to use, and these are different from the ones we went over before. Some are similar, but some are different. So we still have me, te, but instead of se, we have le. We still have nos and we have os, but instead of another se, we have les. So me, te, le, nos, os, les. So we also have singular versus plural. So if it's one thing, we're going to use gusta. But if it's multiple things, plural, we're going to use gustan. So me gusta leer. I like to read. Me gustan los libros. I like to read books. Books are plural, so we're changing from gusta to gustan. And then you're going to clarify with the person, so make sure you have to add that personal a plus the person. So a mí me gusta. A ella le encanta. So you also need to know like certain meanings. So falta is to be missing, quedar is to fit, be left, and molestar is to bother. So those are some of the verbs that we hit on in class that you might want to remember, because we did talk about them a little bit more than normal. And she didn't say anything specific about them, but they could possibly pop up on the quiz. So I just want you guys to be ready. And finally, for our second part of culture, our country facts. So the capital of Peru is Lima. The population is approximately 30 million, and they have some different languages. They have Spanish, which is the official language, but then they also have Quechua and Aymara, but there's also some official indigenous languages, but the overall official language is Spanish. Their currency is Nuevo Sol, and they also have some important geography and economy parts. So Iquitos is an important Amazon River port. Exports are mainly rubber, nuts, wood, rice, coffee, and tobacco. Now, llamas and alpacas, they're important because they provide wool for clothing and blankets, but they're also used for transport in the Andes to Machu Picchu and other tourist attractions. So moving on to Machu Picchu, it's located in the Andes Mountains, and it was built by the Incas, and it was supposedly rediscovered in 1911. So essentially it was built by the Incas. All of a sudden the Incas disappeared, and then our explorers then went and found it again in the 1911s. And we don't know how or why it was abandoned, but we know that it was. For our culture and arts, Andean music uses quena and zapona, which are types of flutes. And then there's also some famous Peruvians. So Mario Vargas Llosa, he's a Nobel Prize winner, and then Cesar Vallejo is a poet. And our last part that I have down here is just an example paragraph, including a lot of the vocab that we had. So it says, por la mañana me desperto con el despertador, luego me levanto y me ducho, después me cepillo los dientes y me visto. Por la tarde me quedo en casa y estudio. Por la noche me acuesto temprano. So that's using all of the vocab from this unit. And then finally, the key highlights from what Dr. Thomas specifically said she's going to put on the quiz is that we need to know the languages from Peru, specifically the part that there are official indigenous languages, and of course Spanish. We also need to know that Mario Vargas, he died in 2025 and he was born in 1936. So this is not the same in our book, so she just wanted us to remember that. And then there's also different types of flutes, which I mentioned before for the music. And then finally, remember the animals at the bottom, so our llamas and alpacas being an important part of transportation and as the economy. So overall, that is everything. I hope that this video helped. Make sure to go back and read the actual pages within the book, and feel free to reach out with any questions.